Hello, and welcome back to the Centered Soul Podcast. I am your host, Danielle Rose, highly intuitive psychic, Reiki energy healer, and your guide for mental, emotional, and energetic healing. In today's episode, we are going to be diving into our dictionary episode. So I'm going to basically give you a lot of words today and what they mean. We are going to write our own little spiritual dictionary so that you are caught up and everything makes sense going forward in the podcast. I know that if you haven't heard me talk about this stuff or it's not integrated into your vocabulary, it can be really confusing and overwhelming. So I want to be sure that you are caught up and that it makes sense to you in the future. If I say something like past lives, or if I say your heart chakra, that you know what the hell that means. So we're going to go into detail today about all the different things that I might talk about, the different words that I might use, and this might be the only dictionary episode we do, or we might find a need for another one in the future, but we will start here just to give you a little bit of an overview. Some of the words that we're going to be going over today is the soul, reincarnation, source, universe, spirit, ego, trauma, core memories, false beliefs, chakras, energy work, transmutation, Reiki, channeling, downloads, activating, balancing, meditation, protection, awakening, cleansing, karma, soulmates, twin flames, soul contracts, energy, light body, vibration and frequency, manifesting, abundance, lack mindset, victim mindset, mediumship versus psychic versus intuition. Those are our general list of the words that we're going to basically be going through today. And I'm going to be telling you what those words mean to me and what they mean when I use them so that you can understand as we move forward. So we will dive right in. Let's see. Our first topic or our first description is going to be source, universe, and spirit. So you will hear me use the term source, universe, spirit, and God all interchangeably. Universe is sort of iffy. I think that source, spirit, and God are sort of all the same thing. Source, spirit, and God is representative of the energy that is, I want to say, more developed than we are. The energy that we all draw our energy from. We know that in religion, it is believed that God created the earth and created the people, right? Spiritually speaking, when I speak of source, I think that we're all a part of this greater energy, which is why we're all connected. You are me and I am you. And that is why, unconditional love for mankind is so important and all of that. So we are essentially, in my belief system, in my world, what's true for me is that we are each a piece of or a part of source, which is literally just, you can imagine it as a big cluster of energy. That's essentially how I imagine it. And I think that we're all a part of that. Little pieces that break off from source to go live their lives. And learn things and collect information and have experiences, right? So source, God, is sort of all the same thing for me. Spirit, sort of the same thing. It's just like that higher being, right? That higher power, if you will. I don't like necessarily the idea of giving your power away to these things. I wouldn't do that. But just the concept that something greater than, stronger than, possessing more knowledge, information, power, or energy, whatever you want to call it, exists, right? So that is essentially source for me. I think it is the source. It is where we come from, right? It is just that frequency that is bigger than us. Universe, on the other hand, I used to use this interchangeably with source, spirit, and God, but I've started to see the universe as separate from source, spirit, and God. So I see the universe now as sort of the way to describe everything. The solar system, outer space, the infinite space, the stars, the universes, all the different galaxies and planets. The universe is just everything that we can and can't perceive in this physical 3D realm, right? And I will, sometimes say the universe is playing tricks on me, or you know what I mean? And that's just sort of the reference to our physical reality and everything that exists here outside of us. So that's sort of universe versus source, but source, spirit, and God are sort of all interchangeable for me. Okay, let's see. I will say, just so you know, I do believe in reincarnation. And I think that we all essentially have a soul and that each of our souls is on its own journey, okay? So each soul would essentially be incarnating into different lives, different time periods, onto different planets, different planes of existence, different dimensions, et cetera, to learn, gather experiences, and collect information for its own soul's growth. So I believe that we have free will. Even after we die and we are back to our soul, right? We get to decide when and if we incarnate again and if we come to earth again or go somewhere else or whatever, right? And the thing is that 9 times out of 10, whatever, 10 times out of 10, at some point in time, you're going to get bored and you're going to want to incarnate again because your soul wants to learn so bad. Your soul wants to experience and gather information and grow, get smarter and have these experiences. And the only way to do that is through incarnating. Hate to break it to you, but you have free will. If you hate it here, like, you get to decide if you incarnate again, but I promise you, you're gonna incarnate again. I guarantee it. Anyways, so sorry, long little side tangent ramble aside. I do believe in reincarnation. I believe in free will. So you'll hear me reference things like, oh, past lives, or oh, in my next life, like whatever. And a lot of the times I am joking. Like, I genuinely don't spend a lot of time thinking about past lives or how they affect us because that's like a whole rabbit hole that is just not for me. It's one that's interesting for sure. And I think that it holds a lot of value and truth, but it's just like, that's not why I'm here. It's not what I'm doing. It's cool, but not my thing. So with that being said, let's see. So we reincarnate, yada, 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 I believe in multiple lives, meaning we have multiple, right? And then the soul's journey is to grow and learn and experience. And yeah, so that's what we're doing here. And that is why we would come back or do it all again. I will also add just really quick that I think that our souls genuinely want to experience love. Love for ourselves, love for our neighbors, our brothers, our mankind, whatever. Like, unconditional love is the soul's ultimate goal because unconditional love is like the source frequency. So if you can like master and achieve that, you sort of like return to like your like unconditional vibrational frequency of like love and go back to source. So all of that to say, that is sort of like a goal as to like why we would keep incarnating over and over and over again. I could probably go on about this topic for a whole fucking podcast, so I'm gonna just stop now. But that's sort of like a little bit of background information on my perception of the soul's journey and why the hell we would choose to do this and why we would choose to do it again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Okay, so let's move forward, okay? One thing that you will hear talked about a lot in the spiritual community and something you'll hear me talk about a lot is the ego. Now, what the fuck is an ego? That's such a good question. I'm glad you asked. Okay, the ego is the protective part of you, basically. It is a part of you that grows and forms and transforms due to your life experiences and your traumas, your good experiences and your bad experiences. So ego is the one who, let's say you're going through something really fucking hard and a part of you is like really kind of like down. You're kind of excited because you're like, look, I know that while this is really hard, on the other side of this is something so fucking cool. There's so much growth, there's so much expansion. I'm gonna have a new house or like whatever it is, right? On the other side of this terrible, terrible year, all this awesomeness is coming. So I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. I'm going to be here and I'm going to do this, right? And the ego will come in and send you down those little like panic attack spirals where you're like, I don't want to do this. I never wanted to do this. I can't believe that like this is where I am in life. Like, I'm so mad. I never asked for this. Da, 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 da. When it's like that logical part of you is like, no, this is exactly where I want to be. This is exactly what I want to be doing. Even though it sucks, I know I need to go through this, blah, 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 right? The ego will come in and try to protect you from experiencing something that you don't want to experience or something that's painful. That's one thing I think, first of all, sorry, everyone's ego is different, okay? So like my ego in specific works overtime to try to prevent me from having to experience pain, okay? Because yeah, girls, I've been through it and I'm really, really, really tired of pain. And so my ego basically acts like I'm allergic to pain and will do this little super fun spiral where if I'm afraid of experiencing pain as an outcome of something, this could be emotional pain, this could be physical pain, it doesn't matter. If I'm afraid of experiencing pain as an outcome of something, my ego will send me down a fear cycle of, oh, I'm scared that this is going to hurt. So I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing to prevent the hurt from happening. But because of the way my trauma loops work, this is so silly, I will end up experiencing the fear because my ego is trying to prevent me from experiencing the pain. And through the fear, I will live through the pain like 10 times because I keep cycling through the thought spiral and experiencing the fear and the pain tenfold when I could have just shut the fuck up and done it once. You know what I mean? So that's like an example of something that the ego will do. The ego will also, for example, if someone says to you something, I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, okay, here's a fun one. So, okay, let's say that I have a really pretty piece of fluorite in my crystal shop, and somebody goes, "Oh my God, that fluorite's so freaking pretty, it looks like glass." Now, some people might take that as a compliment, like, "Oh my God, it's so freaking pretty. It literally looks like glass, like what a high quality crystal." Other people might take that comment and be like, "It's literally not glass. Like, I don't know why you would say that." And they're like offended because they're scared that this person is insinuating that they're selling glass, not fluorite, right? The ego is the one that jumps on, latches on, writes a story, and then acts out as a way to protect you, lashes out as a way to protect you because the ego is scared that someone's going to try to discredit your shop, right? And basically be like, "Oh, like they're not selling real fluorite, they're selling glass or whatever," right? So the ego will have these reactions that essentially will sometimes lash out at people to protect you from experiencing something that you're afraid of, right? 9 times out of 10, in my experience so far, this could change as I learn and grow and experience so many wonderful things. But so far, 9 times out of 10, I've learned that the ego is trying to protect you and that the ego is afraid of something, right? So someone will say something and a trauma loop in your head will basically write a story that's like, "Oh, this person thinks this about me." And then the ego's like, "No way, we're not going to let them think that. Like, that would be detrimental. That would be harmful. That would be offensive. That would cause us emotional pain. That would ruin our business," or whatever. So then the ego lashes out and says something defensive or possibly even mean or something that's like completely irrelevant because they're trying to deflect and like change the story, all because of the story that the ego wrote. So your ego is like a great story writer, but while your ego will tell you it is trying to protect you, it is oftentimes making things 10 times harder for you. Versus if you set the ego down, let's just take the fluoride example. Someone's like, "Oh my God, it's so pretty, it looks like glass." Let's just say that my ego reacts and is like, "Holy shit, they think I'm selling glass." What if I responded and I was like, "It's not glass. Like, how dare you say that?" They would be like, "Geez, what the fuck, Danielle? I was just trying to compliment your quality of fluorite. Like, chill, bro." Or if I responded and said, "Thank you so much. I love when fluorite is so high quality that it offers a glassy effect." I am responding to the comment in a kind way and also a way that protects anything that I might be afraid of, right? Another way to handle this maybe is more, this might be easier in like your personal life with people that you actually know and are having like face to face or like phone call conversations with. Let's just take the fluoride example again. You're a crystal shop owner and your best friend goes, "Wow, that looks like glass." Instead of lashing out, you could be like, "Oh, like I didn't realize that. What do you mean? Do you mean that the quality is so good it's glassy? Or do you mean that you're worried I ended up with a fake crystal without knowing it?" And you can just straight up fucking ask instead of lashing out and having your friend be like, "Geez, I was just trying to compliment you." Or, "Hey, I was trying to offer an area of growth for you. Have you properly vetted this supplier?" Right? The ego will shut down areas of opportunity for growth out of fear. So hopefully that makes sense. I could, again, ramble about ego for an entire fucking episode. And actually, if you guys want me to, I will. Just let me know and I will make an ego episode because there are so many different directions the ego can go in. Okay, one little last thing on the ego front. The ego can go in the opposite direction too. The ego, whilst trying to protect you, can also get really like pumped up and like gassed up, right? So if a bunch of people are like commenting, I'm just going to use myself in as example and hopefully you can like twist it a little bit to like fit into your life, right? So let's just say a bunch of people are commenting on my TikTok, right? I have a TikTok that's hitting like 1 million views and a bunch of people are commenting and they're like, holy shit, like you have the best prices in the world. Oh my God, you're so fucking pretty. Like, oh my God, I would literally like sell my cat to be able to buy your crystals. I just want you to make an order packing video for me. People are just bowing down, worshiping my crystal shop, right? They're just complimenting me. It could be really, really easy for my ego to get on a high horse and someone pops in and is like, hey, I actually like don't resonate with these prices at all. I can get these way cheaper at like a gem show near me. And my ego might be like, okay, well then do that then. I don't need your fucking business. Like, Jesus, okay, like way to get on a fucking high horse. Why don't you respond kindly or not respond at all? Like, I don't care if you guys don't get your crystals from me. I literally don't give a shit. But the ego on the high horse might be like, well, I'm too good for you. I don't care. Like, I don't need you, right? And start to like think that you're better than people because people are gassing you up, right? So the ego can take things and run with it. And that's like literally what it's best at, right? So taking things, running with it, writing stories. People are telling you, oh my God, you're amazing. The ego's like, hell yeah, I'm amazing. Fuck yeah, I'm fucking awesome. And then somebody says something to contradict that and it lashes out and says something mean, or it lashes out and says something really cocky, right? Or you hurt your friend because you said something really, really cocky and like inconsiderate to them because you were on a high horse thinking you're TikTok famous this week. You know what I mean? Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. The ego works in all kinds of ways, and the root of the way that the ego works and why is ultimately going to come down to your traumas and your experiences, right? So if your life has taught you that people use you, then your ego is going to respond to the situations in your life in a manner that attempts to protect you from being used, okay? And that might be lashing out. That might be cutting people off. That might be telling yourself stories or making up stories in your head about what people think of you or what people are saying about you behind your back or why people are really your friend, right? So, hopefully that makes sense. When I talk about the ego, I am talking about the protective part of you that goes out of its way to make sure that you're safe and that you don't have to experience things you don't want to experience or experiencing negative things that you've already experienced that you don't want to experience again. And then on the flip, sometimes the ego is like the cocky bitch inside of you, and that's okay. And I just want to say, like, all of this is neutral. None of this is like good or bad. And like if your best friend is like really like bad at like controlling their ego, but you are really good at controlling your ego, like that doesn't make you better than them. Okay, that means that you have more experience in this one area of life and you have learned how to master or control something that someone else hasn't. They haven't like gone through that like part of life yet. They haven't gone through the experiences that taught them what they needed to know to do that yet. And that's literally okay. We're all here to learn and grow and experience love in our own capacity at our own time frame in whichever ways are best for us, right? So it doesn't mean anything about you if you lash out with your ego or you don't fully control your ego. That's okay. We're learning, we're experiencing, we're growing. How fucking cool is that? So like, again, I always tell people, like, if you notice these things you don't like about yourself, that's literally amazing because that's an opportunity for growth. And like, why fucking be literally doing anything on earth if you're not growing from it? So anyways, again, I could go on forever. The next topic is trauma. What the fuck is trauma? Because I say that word a lot and I think we need to understand what exactly that means. Okay, when I use the word trauma, I am referring to negative experiences that are stored in your memory, in your body, or in your energy. Okay, so for example, sometimes people who, I'm just gonna get really fucking intense here for a second, and I apologize, But here we go. Someone who maybe is assaulted and then blocks out the memory to the point where they don't even know that it happened. They have zero memory of the assault, okay? That doesn't mean that they don't have trauma. That's one of the body's many, many beautiful, amazing coping mechanisms, or should I say the mind's many, many beautiful, amazing coping mechanisms, is that it can block this shit out and you will forget about it. And that's necessary sometimes, okay? As people come to me like, how do I heal my trauma if I can't remember my trauma? I'm like, trust me, you can. And you don't want to just start uncovering it and trying to remember it, because like, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Fuck. Maybe I should have done a podcast episode per fucking word. Okay, so again, I'll go deeper. I will go deeper on all of these things, trust me. And I will tell you, there is a section on my website called Request a Podcast where you can go in and you can be like, hey, like you were talking about this topic and I want to learn more about it. Here's all my questions on it and I'll make a podcast episode for you, okay? So you can request anything and anything that I didn't cover that you're like, fuck, I want to know more about this, whatever. Just input it on the website and I got you, okay? So sorry, going back to trauma. So going back to this person who does not remember their assault, right? That doesn't mean that they don't have the trauma. Maybe they have physical reactions to it, where anytime they are walking on the street and they pass a stop sign, they start to get really anxious because little do they remember there was a stop sign in sight at the time of the assault, right? So the brain will connect these things and give you emotional reactions like anxiety, and that is sort of your body having a trauma response. You're experiencing anxiety because you're seeing something. Or maybe the person who assaulted you tapped you on the back of the shoulder before the assault. And now, anytime that someone taps you on the back of the shoulder, you literally go into a panic attack. Okay? So these are different ways. Even if you don't remember that you were tapped on the shoulder, you don't remember that you saw the stop sign. Okay? So these are different ways that the body will experience trauma responses. The mind will experience trauma responses regardless of if you remember why. A good example is certain types of lighting will literally send me into anxiety attacks. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why. And that's the thing. I don't know why, because the trauma has been blocked out. But something about certain types of lighting really, really triggers my body. And when my body gets triggered like that, my mind gets triggered like that. It's not so much a problem anymore. It's something I used to deal with. But my point is just that things like that will happen because of suppressed or blocked out trauma, and that's okay. Okay. It's not that deep, and I promise you can heal it even if you don't remember the trauma. Because like I said, the lighting just really doesn't bother me anymore. So, okay. The other piece of this is that's a super intense version of trauma, right? Like, oh, an assault. Like, yeah, we think of trauma and we think of like assault or something terrible that happened to someone, right? Another version of trauma is when you were in third grade and you were playing on the playground and one of the kids came up and literally stole your fucking ball and then ran off and they all laughed. And now, because of that incident, even though you literally don't care about it, you don't like have a panic attack or PTSD thinking about that experience, but what you don't realize is the reason that you think people don't take you seriously, the reason you think people don't respect your boundaries, or the reason you think people are going to take things that are yours is because of that experience. Right? It can be as simple as, well, my parents didn't used to tuck me in at night. And so I learned that after the sun goes down, I'm no longer a priority. And now that's manifesting in my adult life as I don't know how to prioritize myself after dinner. The sun goes down, I eat dinner, and suddenly it's like 2 a.m. and I don't know what I've done with my night, and I still need to brush my teeth, and I haven't showered, and how am I even going to get enough sleep for tomorrow? Like, these traumas can manifest in the craziest way. And this is sort of taking us into trauma roots. What exactly are trauma roots? So you'll notice, right, in your adult life, let's just use the same example. After the sun goes down, you literally lose time and you don't know how to take care of yourself. Once you start tracing back the feeling, you can trace it back to a traumatic event or whatever. And that trauma is the trauma root of your situation, okay? So the trauma root in that instance is the fact that after the sun went down, your parents didn't feel like being parents anymore, and so no one was caring for you, or getting what needed to be done, making sure you take your bath, making sure you brush your teeth, making sure you get tucked in and turn the lights out and read your book or whatever it is. No one had any sort of routine. And so maybe from that, you learned that you're not a priority after dark, or maybe you learned that routines are not important. Or maybe you learned that not having routines is really uncomfortable. And so now you're stuck in a cycle of hyper routines, right? It can literally go in any fucking direction. Good example of this is someone who's raised by a narcissistic parent. You can take two kids raised by a narcissistic parent, and one kid turns out to be a fucking asshole, and the other kid turns out to be a fucking angel. Why does this happen? Well, it all depends on what the brain is processing and how it's processing it, at what age it's processing it. Some people will take the narcissistic parent experience and be like, holy shit, that was terrible. I now know that I want to do the opposite of that because I didn't like how that felt. Versus other people will take the narcissistic parent experience and maybe they're bitter and they're like, well, that's what I got, so the rest of the world deserves that too, and I'm going to be that person. Or maybe they're not even bitter, they're just, the only thought in their head is, well, that's how it is, so that's how I am. Duh. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all up to perception, and there's no reason to place blame on yourself for the way that you perceive things, because dude, sometimes you will go back through a fucking trauma, you'll realize the roots of it, and you're like, this is stupid. Like, this is from when they took my ball in 3rd grade. Like, I didn't even remember that until just right now, and it doesn't bother me. Trauma doesn't have to bother you. Trauma creates negative, false beliefs, core memories that are not serving you and are manifesting negative experiences in your current life, okay? Jesus, I could probably do a whole episode on this, but I won't. I will move forward. So when I say trauma, I'm talking about anything from the assault to losing something when you were 2 years old. Maybe your pacifier was taken from you. Or, oh, you want to know my little trauma? Oh my God, I had this super cute little stuffed dog and I got it at Toys R Us. And then I remember like a few months later, we went back to Toys R Us and I accidentally left it there. Oh my God. And I never got it back. I never got it back. That shit has haunted me my whole life. It's always haunted me. But guess what? I found one on eBay. Anyways, I'm just saying, it can be as simple as losing something precious to you, a parent yelling at you, an experience that taught you you're not a priority or you don't matter. It could be someone taking something from you or being mean to you. And it can also be something like an assault or going bankrupt or losing your house or the loss of a family member or a friend. It can go any which way, and I just don't want you to put value on it. Just because no one died doesn't mean your trauma is not relevant. You know what I mean? Okay, so moving on. False beliefs. I touched on that a little bit in this conversation. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. A false belief is anything that you believe to be true that is not true. It's just as simple as that. It's literally a false belief. So a good example of a false belief would be, I have a belief in my brain that says I'm not worthy. I have a belief in my brain that says I have to work at least 8 hours a day if I'm going to make enough money to survive. Or I have a belief in my brain that says everyone cheats on me. That's a good one. Oh, this is a good one. I know so many people who struggle with this one. The belief in their brain says everybody always cheats on me. And they're like, well, no, but it's true because it always happens. So how could that possibly be a false belief? I'm so glad you asked. I would love to tell you. The reason that that's a false belief is because you don't need to live in that pattern. That is a self-manifesting pattern because you're believing it to be true. And so you're constantly entering relationships with people who are either bad, I don't want to say bad, but like people who are more likely to cheat on you, or you're manifesting these circumstances in your relationship that are leading to that, or you're putting yourself in situations where that's continuously happening to you. But if you were to reprogram the belief and choose to believe something different, like I am worthy of loyalty, or maybe you discover that you're actually not prioritizing yourself, which is why other people aren't prioritizing you, right? It's like everything that's happening in our physical life is telling us something about our internal world. That's a whole other conversation. I feel like this fucking episode is going to give you guys so many little like tidbits of things that we could talk about, and so many different like things that I'm well versed in, and just give you guys ideas. So please, please, please utilize the request a podcast section on my website, because I would love to know from all of the little side tangents today, because I want to try to stay on the dictionary, but from all the side tangents, what things do you want to hear me cover? If nobody utilizes that section, those episodes will not get made. So if I sit here and say, I could do a whole episode on this, get on there, type out your questions, let me know what it is that you want to know about that topic. Otherwise, it won't happen. So please, please, please do that. Anyways, yes. The things that are happening in your physical reality are reflecting to you your false beliefs, okay? So when you are not making enough money, when people are constantly cheating on you, yada, 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 you have false beliefs that are telling you that these things are true, which is why they're continuously manifesting into your reality, which sort of takes us into like law of attraction. The things that you believe to be true in your reality are constantly going to happen. And the things that you are desperately, desperately after, the law of polarity I think it's polarity. No, the law of opposing forces will push those things away. If you desperately want something, you literally can't have it because the energies like don't jive anymore. And then they're like pushing against each other. That's a whole other conversation. Holy shit. You know, there's a lot of things in this episode that are a whole other conversation. So, anyways, we all know what false beliefs are. If we don't, let me know and I'll go into more detail. Moving on, let's discuss chakras. What the fuck is a chakra? I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so a chakra or a chakra, there are, I think, 7. Yeah, there's 7. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I should fucking know this. There's basically 7 energy points in the body. And those are like the main chakras that people are referring to when they talk about the chakras. Okay, so you have your crown chakra at the top of your head. You have your third eye chakra in between your eyebrows. You have your throat chakra in the center of your throat. You have your heart chakra in the center of your chest. You have your solar plexus underneath the ribs but above the belly button. You have your sacral chakra below the belly button. If you are biologically female, you have that right basically over your uterus. And then at the base of your spine, right over like the pelvic bone, is the root chakra. And those are the 7 energy points that people are talking about when they refer to the chakras. The chakras are also the colors of the rainbow. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see behind me the tapestry with the chakras, and it shows you the colors of them as well. But basically, starting at the root chakra is red, and then orange is the sacral, yellow is the solar plexus, green is the heart. So it goes up the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, stopping at the third eye. We need one more color. The crown chakra, people oftentimes say, is white or indigo. For me, I usually go with indigo. That resonates with me better. But if white resonates with you, fucking go with it. Energy work and all this shit is literally just about intention and perception. So like it doesn't fucking matter. There's no wrong answer to this, okay? So those are the chakras. Other situation going on here is that there's also like the like energy chakras. There's like, I don't think there's like 3 that like are like literally above your head. And then I think there's more that like go into earth, and like that's a whole conversation that we're not going to get into because I don't know enough to teach you about it. I don't really pay attention to those right now because they haven't been a relevant part of my journey at this point in time. So I don't know a lot about them, and that's okay. The other thing I'll tell you is the center of your hands have chakras. So you can actually like wave your hand chakras like over your third eye chakra, and you can sort of feel things heating up. You can feel they're already activating as I'm doing it. You can feel the energy sort of shifting. One thing you can do too is hold your hands together like in front of you and start like moving your hands a little bit back and forth, not quite touching each other, and you'll start to feel the opposing energy pushing on each other a little bit. And then once you sort of get that feeling going, you can kind of go over your chakras in like your third eye, your crown chakra, and really start to feel things. It's a fun little game to play if you want to mess with your energy and sort of show yourself that you have the ability. I also think you have chakras in your feet as well. Again, I don't pay attention to that stuff because it just has not been a part of my journey. Okay, so energy work. What the fuck is energy work? I'm so glad you asked. Okay, energy work is essentially... There is this woman on Instagram who teaches a lot of like a lot of this stuff, she teaches a lot of energy work stuff, and she always quotes, she says, energy work is the intention to guide light into cells. And I think that that is such a good description of energy work because it is all intention, okay? You cannot physically see energy in this plane, and so it can be very difficult for people to perceive and understand energy work because they can't see it in the physical, right? It is an intention. So you can imagine or intend for your energy to be cleansed, which is why I tell people, right? I'm like, if you take a clear quartz crystal and hold it over your crown chakra and say to yourself or out loud, whatever, I have the intention for this clear quartz to cleanse my crown chakra fully and completely of any negative energies, entities, or spirits, anything that's not serving me, gunking up my thought process, to fully cleanse that out of my crown chakra and help me be cleansed and clear. You done it. You done it. You have the clear course as a tool to sort of help you, but ultimately it's about the intention. I intend to cleanse my energy. I'm going to do this little ritual of waving a selenite through it. I'm going to do this little ritual of deep breathing and imagining the energy exiting through my crown as I exhale, right? And it's like, it comes down to the intention. So that's kind of hopefully helpful. On the other end of that, we have specific types of energy like Kundalini, we have Reiki. I don't know shit about Kundalini, don't ask me anything, but Reiki, I am Reiki certified. I will do a whole episode on Reiki and like intuition, mediumship versus psychics, tarot versus oracle, all of that stuff. So you can sort of A, get a good idea of what the hell that stuff actually means, and B, it will also sort of give you like a little bit of an intro and some information on my sessions and like what it's like to do a session with me. And it should answer a lot of questions around that as well. So Reiki in and of itself is a type of energy. It is an ancient form of Japanese energy healing. And it is, again, it's a very specific type of energy. So, you know how if you were to pet a cat and then pet a dog, you oftentimes notice a shift in the energy. Or if you were to be sleeping in your room and someone opens your door to check on you or to ask you a question, but they didn't say anything because they noticed you were asleep, but then you wake up because you notice someone's in the room with you. That's you noticing a difference, noticing the shift in energy, right? Like when you ever feel like someone's watching you and then you turn around and it turns out the guy 3 cars behind is like staring at you. You're noticing the shift in the energy, right? The same way that you can tell the difference between if an animal walks in the room or if a person walks in the room. If you are a pet owner who lives with other people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When the cat walks in your room, you can feel that energy versus when your husband walks in the room, it's a completely different energy and you can feel that. So all of that being said, Reiki is a different type of energy. It is a very, very healing and very, very cleansing kind of energy. So Reiki has been used to heal physical ailments like broken bones. It's been used to heal bruises. It's been used to heal fucking cancer and like all kinds of shit. I have used Reiki myself for physical injury, broken bones, pinched nerves, bruises, illnesses, nausea, pain management, reducing fevers, and helping with illness. And and I don't sell like that kind of Reiki. That's like the very physical kind of Reiki that I prefer to do in person. And that's stuff that I've done on myself, on my family, on my friends, to help them with physical ailments, injuries, and things that they're going through. So yeah. Then we have the like energetic use, and it's all energy, right? But like that's more like the physical use where you're like pain management and stuff like that. But then like the energetic use of Reiki is like cleansing the chakras, removing negative energy from your light body. Don't worry, we will describe light body in a few. And let's see, removing negative energy from your chakras. If this is one thing I do very commonly with my clients, if you are experiencing brain fog or not being able to focus or getting distracted very easily, I will use Reiki to clear your mind, cleanse your mind, and give you some Reiki energy that lives in your mind to help you cling on to focus better. Okay. So the other thing that happens with Reiki is it will cleanse and align your whole system. It will remove the things that are not serving you in your energy system or are holding you back. And then it can also help you like purge what's not serving you to uncover what you need to know, right? So you can use it to cleanse your heart chakra of some heavy, heavy emotions that you've been holding on to. And, from there, other stuff kind of starts coming up, and then you can use that Reiki as emotional support as you start to dive into those energies and those things that are coming up. I will say too, like I've definitely used Reiki as like emotional support and like an aid in comfort when dealing with a lot of like really difficult, heavy emotions and things that are coming up. So that's a little bit of some information on like basically what is Reiki, but we will go way, way, way deeper on that in another episode where we'll talk about all of this energy healing, what my sessions are like, the difference between psychics and mediums, all of that. We will go very deep, I promise. That will probably be my next episode. Assuming this one doesn't turn into a two-parter, which since we are about 40 minutes in, I would tell you this is probably going to be a two-parter, just this dictionary episode. So hang tight. After the dictionary episode, we will go into an episode about what the fuck is Reiki, what the fuck is energy work, what the fuck is psychic fucking shit. Okay. So moving along, what do we have next? Okay, the word transmute. I will talk about transmutation or alchemizing energy a lot. So to transmute energy is to, let's say that you have an energy of frustration and you are going to, instead of being frustrated and being in your skin and angrily cleaning things and being annoyed, instead you take a second, you meditate, you breathe in, you breathe out, you start to really access that energy within inside of you, and you're like, I am going to turn this energy that is inside of me into focus, and I'm going to use this focus to journal. I'm going to use this focus to build this puzzle. I'm going to use this focus to finish this work project. I'm going to use this focus to clean, to make the bed, to do the laundry, to change the sheets, whatever. And so you're basically taking an energy that you want to transmute into something else, and you are turning it into this other thing instead, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. That quote is so dear to my heart because when my grandpa died, he left us this beautiful letter of sort of like his beliefs on what happens after you pass away. And one of the things that he wrote was that energy cannot be created or destroyed. And it's not like it's something we don't know. But that was his way of saying, like, he's still right fucking here with us. And that quote will always be so dear to my heart because he's right here with us. So, anyways, energy cannot be created or destroyed. So when you have this energy inside of you of frustration, you can turn it into something else. You can't just stop being frustrated, but you can become focused. You can become, maybe you go for a run, right? That's a great way to transmute anger. It's like I go for a run or I go hit the punching bag, right? So all that to say. Also, fear, just a little side note, fear is very, very similar. My mom told me this the other day. She goes, fear is, what did she say? Something along the lines of fear and excitement get mixed up in the brain because they're essentially very, very close to the same kind of energy, and the brain will oftentimes misinterpret excitement for fear or misinterpret fear for excitement. So a good way that you can alchemize this energy or transmute this energy is take the fear and be like, I'm going to turn this into, I'm also really excited for this thing tomorrow, or I'm really excited for this, and get excited for something instead. Okay, also, last thing I'll talk about with transmutation, alchemization is you can transmute energy by sending it down into the earth by, That's a whole other project, whole other conversation, but we can go into detail on how to do that later. But you can send energy down into the earth and let the earth recycle it, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transmuted and changed and I want to say manipulated. So you can send it down to the earth and let Mother Earth deal with it. It's not your problem anymore. That's a great way to transmute energy. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about activating. You'll hear that word a lot in the spiritual community. Activating. What the fuck does that mean? Well, you can activate lots of different things. There's lots of different ways to use this. You can activate your psychic powers, we'll say, for example. For me, like once I started tapping into and activating my ability to connect to my intuition, it was really hard to stop. So I was like, oh, I've been activated. Another thing people will say is like, oh, that was a really activating meditation, right? People will say that. They're typically referring to like the way that it makes them feel. They're feeling like they're on a higher frequency. They're feeling like they're more connected to their higher self or their spirit guides. They're feeling spiritually activated, right? We'll also talk about balancing. Like I'll say like balance your chakras, balance your energy. The literal name of my business is Centered Soul, and this has so much to do with centering, balancing, neutralizing. It's sort of all the same. It's finding that yin yang, finding that balance, finding a way to end the finding a way to turn off that like out of balance response. When it comes to chakras, for example, you want to balance them because they'll get out of balance. And what that's referring to is the amount of energy that they will intake and store can be very activating in maybe a negative way. And make you anxious or make you cloudy minded or make you have weird dreams. And so to balance it is to kind of remove that like extra heavy shit that you don't need that's not helping you. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. Okay, let's talk about ego deaths and spiritual awakenings. Okay, so people talk about ego deaths and they will say that, oh, I had an ego death. And I'm like, okay, like, what does that really mean, bro? Like, I don't know if you did, because sometimes when people be saying that, it sounds like they're talking straight out of the ego, you know what I mean? So here's the thing. I think that there are a never-ending number of ego deaths and spiritual awakenings, okay? You will experience both many, many, many times. So you might consider my first spiritual awakening to be when I first started becoming aware of energy and when I first started being able to pick up on and interpret the energy of people around me. Or maybe you would consider my spiritual awakening when I first started picking up on the energies of the world. There was a period of my life where I would have gnarly panic attacks the day before any catastrophic event and up until the catastrophic event. So again, this is really intense, but if there was going to be like an earthquake that like really fucked up a city, or if there was a mass shooting, I would be a fucking wreck for like 12 to 15 hours before it happened. And then like once it happened and I found out about it, I was like, oh, like that's what it was. Like, and then I would start to kind of come down and feel better. But it was like I was able to tap into and pick up on the collective energies that were shifting, what was happening. So you could consider that a spiritual awakening, right? Maybe you could also consider the spiritual awakening like the first time that I talked to a dead person, right? And it's like when that person came in and I was able to hear them, it's like, whoa, maybe the first time I saw a ghost would be a spiritual awakening, right? So it's like we have so many different types of spiritual awakenings. As we become aware of different layers of our realms and our universe, we have different types of spiritual awakenings. A spiritual awakening can also be like when you just awaken to a new side of yourself, a new side of your spirituality, your spiritual practice, a deeper side of your soul, your past lives, or whatever, right? So it's like spiritual awakenings are infinite, my guy. Don't be sitting here being like, I already had mine. Like, trust me, bitch, you're probably going through another one right now. They happen all the time. Okay, same thing with ego deaths, okay? You could consider I think like the most recent ego death I had was, I was at this point where I was sort of able to, I felt like I had accomplished a lot. I was doing a lot in my healing, and I was working through a lot of stuff that I really, really wanted to work through. And I was having so much progress. And a part of me was really afraid to admit certain things to myself because that would basically mean that I hadn't made as much progress as I thought I had or as I wanted to. It's another good example of ego, right? The ego will lie to us sometimes. Like my ego is lying to me and being like, yeah, you're over it. It's like, no. I wanted so desperately to be over it that I lied to myself and told myself I am over it, because if I'm not over it, that means I haven't really done as much work as I wanted to do, right? And so the ego is trying to protect me from having to do more work and experience more pain, right? So my most recent ego death with that was like, I was able to get past the liar part of my ego that was trying to protect me in that instance. And I was able to basically break down that wall and be like, ego, I need you to take a deep breath. We can work together. It's going to be okay. What do we need to do? What's really going on? It doesn't mean anything about me if I'm not over this. How do we really feel? And to be able to sit down and have that raw conversation with myself, get deeper, get under the layers, and discover more. And turned out I was hiding stuff from myself. And so once I learned how to get past what I called, like, everything's like a fucking video game. It really is. So it's like, this felt like another level to me, another layer. And so once I was able to get to this next level, I was like, okay, that felt like I broke down a wall. So I've been referring to it, like in my personal life with my friends and stuff, as like once I broke down the ego wall. And well, when I'm like teaching them like, oh, you're in an instance where you're fighting the ego wall, I'll sort of explain to them like how to break that down and like how to get past that, right? And that was like my most recent ego death. Definitely not my first one, and sure as fuck not my last one, because this ego is loud sometimes, okay? I would be quite upset if that was my last ego death. Like, it's a good thing to have multiple ego deaths, to have multiple spiritual awakenings. It's like, it's important for the journey, okay? So I refer to that as like getting past the ego walls. That was like my like realization, and that was like my most recent ego death, because I was really able to get past it. And now I see it when it happens, and I'm able to just jump past it, and we're all good. So ego deaths, spiritual awakenings, not a one-time thing. They will consistently happen over and over and over and over again. Okay, let's see. Let's talk about meditation. Yes, okay, meditation. What the fuck is meditation? People, is it just like sitting down going, like, or is it like sitting down with your eyes closed and deep breathing? Or have you ever heard people say, oh, I meditate when I drive. Oh, I meditate when I do the dishes. Like, okay, so there are multiple types of meditation. There's so many types of meditation. It's not even funny. I heard someone say one time, what did they say? They said, if you don't like yoga, it is because you have not found the right type of yoga for you. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, I just don't like yoga. Like, leave me alone. And then I found out there's like, don't quote me on this. I think that there's like 500 different types of yoga, like literal different types of yoga. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, like there's yoga for stretching, there's yoga for muscle building, there's yoga for relaxation. Like, there's so many different types of yoga. It's not even funny. Like, I don't know them all, so don't fucking come looking at me. But that's all I'm saying. So, same thing with meditation. If you don't like meditation, it's because you're just doing one that's not good for you. Like, you're doing one that doesn't resonate with you right now at this point in time. And I'll tell you, like, if something doesn't resonate with you right now, that's great. That's fine. That's totally wonderful. But don't write it off forever. Have you ever tried Brussels sprouts and you're like, ew, gross. And then like 5 years later, you kind of like them? It's the same fucking thing with like all of your mental, emotional, and spiritual and energetic work, okay? Something that you don't like doesn't mean that you won't like it in 5 years. Doesn't mean that it won't resonate in a month or in 5 months or whatever. So, let's just take, for example, deep breathing meditation. This is one that drives me fucking crazy because I love to use my brain. I love to use my brain. All I want to do all day long is develop and use my brain. Like, ugh. So when someone says, please sit down, shut the fuck up, and think about your breathing, I want to light myself on fire. Like, that doesn't sound like fun to me. But it teaches you a lot about noticing the thoughts that are coming into your head and being present and being grounded and all that stuff that I hate because it's just so much work and I want to just go a million miles an hour all the time, which is not always healthy. So all that to say, that is one type of meditation, right? Breathing. Another type of meditation is listening to music and just kind of like vibing and relaxing and like just feeling really good. What would we call that? I think we would call that like meditation for relaxation. Okay. One of my favorite types of meditation, I do this all the fucking time, is I close my silly little eyes and I talk to my higher self, or I talk to myself and I learn things, I deconstruct things. How did I think about that? What did I feel about that? How did this go? What could I have done better? Did I do good with this today? I had a goal of this, and how close are we to achieving it? And I learn things. I ask my higher self questions and gather information and collect data and have a great time. And I do that with my eyes closed, and it looks like I'm just sitting there breathing, but really I'm on like, I'm in school right now. Like I'm in class right now. Okay. Another type of meditation, I do this one sometimes, is I will listen to guided meditations while I sleep to like reprogram the subconscious mind. That's great. You can also do guided meditations when you're awake. So there's a million different types of meditations. So if I say I was meditating, it doesn't mean I was sitting there with my eyes closed. And if I tell you to meditate, it doesn't mean that you have to sit there and breathe or go on a nature walk or listen to a guided meditation. There's a million different types. We could probably do a whole fucking episode on that too. Or maybe I'll fucking write you guys a course that teaches you 10 million different types of meditation. Who knows? Let me know. Yeah, so if I say meditation, it could mean any different type of meditation. It could go in all sorts of different directions. So just keep that in mind. It is not necessarily just sitting down and closing your eyes. Okay, let's see here. What else are we going to talk about? Okay, the last thing that I will tell you in this episode is what I mean when I say downloads, okay? And then we're going to have to do a part 2 because it's already been about an hour and Lord knows how long the rest of the words are going to take us to get through. So we will have to do a part 2 episode. And I hope to see you there. But for now, I will finish this one off by explaining to you what downloads means. So if I'm referencing downloads, or if I'm saying, oh, I got a download, what the fuck does that mean? I did not plug something into my computer and download a hard drive or download something to my hard drive. I'm not tech savvy. Don't look at me. Okay. So if I say download or I got a spiritual download, right? That basically means I'm referring to psychic information. I'm referring to information from source or from God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. Or my angels and spirit guides, maybe they sent me information. Or my higher self, I asked her a bunch of questions that she answered for me. By the way, higher self doesn't really have gender. Angels, spirit guides, none of this stuff has gender. It's just easy to perceive it that way. We literally can't fucking perceive what they are, so like don't even overthink it. If you want to gender them, if you don't want to gender them, it literally doesn't matter. It's just whatever resonates in your brain. And for me, it resonates in my brain sometimes that my higher self is she, sometimes it literally doesn't. It's different every day. So it just means that I gathered information from outside of myself. That's all it means. Download is gathering information energetically, basically. A good way to, or like a good example is when I'm doing a Reiki session on someone, I am able to read their energy like a book, okay? It's like it just all appears there and I can just download the information and start telling it to them. I'm like, oh, like this is what's going on in your heart chakra and this is why, and like this is what's going on in your like current state of life and this is why, and like here's how you can change that and here's what you need to do, and oh, it connects back to this thing that happened when you were 4 years old, and like I don't know, it downloads, it just comes right in. It's like I plug myself into the hard drive of the universe and I start getting the information. Okay. So if I say download, it just means that I essentially collected data and information from a realm, a being outside of our physical 3D. So yeah. Okay. For part 2 of the podcast, we will go into spirit guides versus higher self versus spirit team and angels. We will talk a little bit about what it means to channel. What does it mean when someone says channeling? We're going to talk about cleansing, karma, and karmic situations, soulmates, twin flames, soul contracts, a little bit more about energy, the light body and energy body, vibration, frequency, manifesting, abundance, lack mindset, and victim mindset, and then a little bit more about mediumship and psychic and intuitive stuff. So that's where we're headed next. Thank you so much. I hope that you loved this episode. Make sure that you rate this episode. Tell me that you loved this episode. If you don't rate this episode, how will I know that you loved this episode? Okay. Make sure you also share the podcast with your friends because it literally helps so much. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on. You know the drill. Make sure you also go to my website, go to the Request a Podcast and tell me everything you want to hear more on. Anything that I touched on in today's episode that you're like, girl, you should have gone way deeper. I have so many questions. Hit me up. I would love to hear what you want to hear about. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that today's episode brought you one step closer to achieving a centered soul.